Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Hancock and this is Ask a Humanist. It's a once-a-month half-hour TV show, or blog TV show I suppose, where I answer questions people pose to me as a humanist. And I'm sorry for the headset, but I'm on a different computer this week and, well, I needed to make sure you could hear me. Anyways, I had a whole bunch of questions come in the last couple months, and part of that is because I missed December. But I can only answer a few of them, otherwise we'd be here forever. So I chose 3. I hope you enjoy them, 3 or 4, depending on what time we have. And I'll try and get to the rest of the questions next month. There you go. All right, so the first question I got was from a man named Stephen, and he wanted to know, from the humanist perspective, what defines the difference between a human and a lion or a tiger or a bear, and why is it considered bad or immoral for a man to murder another and then eat him or leave him to rot, but it's not considered immoral, bad for a tiger or a lion to do the same thing? The answer is pretty simple. Yes, humans are animals, and we have that in common with lions and tigers and bears, oh my. But we seem to be unique. And I say seem because we don't know if animals can do this or not. But what makes a human unique is our ability to be moral. And to be moral requires us to know that we're making a choice and to actively make a choice. Now, you can act on instinct, and sometimes the outcomes will be good and sometimes the outcomes will be bad, but you can't choose your actions specifically to be good or bad unless you know you have the ability to make a choice. And that requires you to know you're making a choice. You have to be sentient. You have to be able to reflect on your actions. You have to be able to think ahead about potential consequences. And you have to be able to judge things as good or bad. Now, most humans can do this. We do not know if a lion or a tiger or a bear can. It's possible they can. I had a teacher in college who thought bears were really, really smart, and if humans hadn't developed sentience, he thought bears would have. All right, so we don't know whether or not any other animals are capable of self-reflection the way a human is. But that seems to be the main difference, and for a humanist, this difference is very, very important, because a huge part of the philosophy is this idea that we have the ability to make choices in our lives. We're not just driven by instinct, although we have instincts and they can be very powerful at times. For most normal people, we also have the ability to plan ahead and think through our actions and choose our actions to maximize the good and minimize the bad. And this is the realm where morality comes in. Because without that, there is no concept of morality. If you're just working on instinct, there is no moral framework. If you're able to choose your actions, at that point you can have morality. And that seems to be the big difference between humans and the other animals. This isn't to say that other animals aren't capable of it, but we haven't verified any animals yet that are capable of it that I know of. I mean, it's possible a scientist has, and I'm just not up on the science. When I saw this question, why are we different from a lion or a tiger or a bear, the first thing that came to mind was a quote from Voltaire, and it's from an essay called War. And he said, "God gave reason to man. Using it, he should scorn to debase himself by aping animals, especially since he has neither natural equipment for killing nor instinct for sucking blood." The humanist approach is that we are animals. We embrace that fact about ourselves. But we seem to be animals that are capable of defying our instincts at times. We can override the instinct that says to fight or flight. We can override those things. We can override our hunger instinct. We can override our sexual desires. We have that choice, and I think that's what makes us unique. And it's part of the toolkit we humans came with. So yeah, we're animals, and that's great, and we're related to all the other animals, but we have this ability to think and be rational, and that's kind of important. The second question that he had, is why isn't it moral for a lion to eat someone? Why isn't it immoral for a lion to eat someone? And why is it immoral for a human and not immoral for an animal. And I think the difference is that again, we feel the sense of morality. You know, we can tell what we're doing is good or bad, and we have that concept for ourselves. And so therefore, you know, collectively we've decided killing people is bad because mostly we don't want to be subjected to that ourselves. Like, none of us want to be killed by someone else and eaten by them. We don't want to be killed and eaten by a tiger or a lion or a bear or another human being. We just don't want it. And so there's this general prohibition on killing and eating like that. Now, the difference is, is that you know, we as humans can feel responsibility to our fellow animals, but it's not likely that a lion, tiger, or bear is going to feel morally responsible to the human that's caring for them. And we see this all the time with people who keep animals in captivity. Every once in a while, the animal turns on them and attacks them because something in their instinct was triggered. And you know, that's not likely to happen human to animal, although humans obviously abuse animals all the time, but we're less likely to do it because we can think of the morality. And from the humanist perspective, we look at it this way. We say, look, we have a moral responsibility to animals. We do not expect animals to respect us the same way we would try to respect them. And again, this is a choice that people make in terms of how they relate to the animal kingdom, of which we are a part. Now, Stephen asked another question, and it had to do with Darwinism. You know, let's look at these issues in terms of Darwinism, the survival of the fittest. The first thing you need to know is a humanist is not a Darwinist. We're not. We have a scientific mindset. We understand what the theory of evolution is all about. We understand what the evidence for evolution actually is, and so we're evolutionists. I'm not even sure what Darwinism is. I would assume it's some sort of social survival of the fittest sort of thing. Humanists don't engage in that sort of thinking. Evolution teaches us that the species that we see around us are all part of a family tree. That evolution is not an evolutionary ladder. There's no way to gauge one species as better than the other. They're either fitted to the niche that they're surviving in or they're not. And every species that you see around you, from a dog to a cat to a bug to a chicken to a sea slug, whatever, they're all like leaves on a tree. And it'd be nearly impossible to say one leaf on a tree is superior to all the other leaves on the tree. They are just leaves on a tree suited to their niche. And as you go back through the tree and the branches, you get to a central trunk. And that's what evolution is like. You know, we're related in the past from past ancestors on this tree of life. And that's a pretty cool and amazing thing when you think about it. And the implication for that is not to, you know, fight tooth and nail against the tree we're part of, because that would be self-defeating. We're dependent on the tree of life for our own survival. If we're a leaf on the tree, we are dependent on the tree. And the tree is dependent on us. All right? It all comes together, right? It's an interdependent web of life. And, you know, we'd be silly to try and hurt our tree. It just wouldn't work at all. So, you know, Darwinism, if it's a social, you know, tooth and nail survival of the fittest thing, no, humanists don't go in for that at all. All right. We're aware of the interdependent web of life. We know we're a part of it. And more importantly, we can choose to be collaborative. I mean, the thing about the human species is that we're a social species. We are dependent on other people for our well-being and survival. And sorry, wild boy, I don't know you. I'm not letting you on. So anyways, we're with this interdependent web of life, and we can choose to behave cooperatively, or we could choose to behave in a very antagonistic way to one another.
Next question I had was from Laura, and it was, how do you deal
with spirituality, right? And again, that's kind of a difficult word for most humanists because humanism is a secular philosophy of life. It has nothing to do with supernaturalism. It's just a here and now, pragmatic philosophy about how to be a good person. And spiritualism or spirituality kind of implies something supernatural is going on, that something other than ourselves and our own brains is at work. And that's something that most humanists, reject, because we reject supernaturalism. And, on the other hand, humanists feel very connected to the universe. We understand that, we're a human and that we have 7 billion brothers and sisters in our species on the planet, and that we're connected to them. That we share a lot in common by virtue of all being humans. We all get scared, we all get hungry, we all want love, we all have ambitions, and that's pretty standard across the globe, and that's pretty amazing when you think about it. And on top of that, because of evolution, we know we're related to all life on the planet. Every single bit of life on this planet, from the trees and the bugs to the lions and tigers, we're connected to them all. And that's a pretty powerful thought. And on top of that, we're molecularly and atomically connected to everything in the universe. We're made out of star stuff, as Carl Sagan said. And he was a humanist, by the way, if you didn't know. We are made of star stuff. We come from the stars. The atoms that make us up got their life in a star, in a supernova probably. So that's pretty amazing. So for humanists, this understanding that we're part of the universe, that we're connected to the universe, not in an abstract way, but in a very tangible, physical way, is a really powerful thing for us. And I know when I talk to a lot of people, they say, well, that spirituality, this feeling of connectedness is spirituality. Okay, fine. Label it what you want. This is like the starting place for a humanist, is who we are as a human being, and we're a member of the human species, which is a member of the animal kingdom, which is life on Earth, which is a planet in the universe, and we're made out of the atoms that make up the universe itself, so we're connected. It's a pretty cool and amazing thing, and I understand why people like to think about that. It's a really powerful mindset. It makes you want to be the best human you can be. It makes you want to work for the benefit of your fellow humans. Very, very powerful, and I understand that's what a lot of people are talking about when they use the word spiritual. Most humanists don't use the word spiritual. All right. Now, there have been writings by humanist leaders, mostly in the Congregation for Humanistic Judaism, who talk about a secular spirituality, and they're talking about exactly this feeling of interconnectedness to the universe and to all the other humans, but without any supernatural connotations to that connectedness. Right? And so that's, if you're talking to a humanist and they use the word spirituality, they're using it in a secular as opposed to supernatural context. No supernaturalism there at all. When we go to a park and we see a beautiful scene and we're swept away with the enormity of nature and the smallness of us, most people would call that a spiritual experience. We just think it's really, really cool. We have the same emotion. It has the same emotional impact on us. We just don't ascribe anything supernatural to us. It's just really cool, and it reminds us of who we are in the universe. And it's a great big universe, and we're all really puny, but that's really cool because we're still unique. And I think one of the reasons why people want the supernatural overlay to these experiences is because when you realize how vast the universe is, it's really, the first thing you think is, man, I am completely insignificant. Like, my time on Earth is really short. I'm missing the most of life, right? Because 13 billion some years existed without me, and 13 some billion years are going to exist without me after I die, and I'm going to miss most of the universe, right? I'm only existing for a short time. It's very easy to feel very insignificant. The thing is, though, it's amazing you're here at all. You know, I mean, when you think about it, and yes, you're one of 7 billion people on the planet, and you're only one of them, and it's easy to get lost in the crowd. On the other hand, you are completely unique. Even if you're an identical twin, you still are unique from your twin. So, you know, yes, you're tiny, you're insignificant in the grand scheme of things. On the other hand, you're unique, and you're here now, and that's pretty astounding. And so for a humanist, we take that and we think, okay, this is our call to action. I'm here for a short period of time. I'm going to make the most of it, and I'm going to do the best that I can, and, you know, and try to make the world a better place while I'm here. I'm going to try and live a good, happy, fulfilling life, and be the best, most ethical person I can be. So there you go. That's how we view spirituality, if you will. Okay, so the last question was from Stephen. And he says, okay, so obviously humanists are interested in rational thought and critical thinking, and we are. Big part of humanism is ethics. The other big part is being a rational thinker, because we don't think we can do a good job thinking about our ethics and our morals and the dilemmas we find ourselves in unless we can think well. All right, so we're taking our ethics and we're applying our rational and critical thinking to them so that we come to good conclusions. So rational thinking is very important to us. But he says, you know, a rational thinker does not allow his emotional decisions to override his rational conclusions. And I would say, well, yeah, okay, sure. You know, I think the mistake people make is they think that a rational thinker is not going to integrate his emotions into his thinking, and that's absolutely wrong. A rational thinker does integrate their emotions into the decision, because how else do you have to have some way when you're thinking through an emotional dilemma, what is right and what is wrong, and your emotions help tell you what is right and what is wrong. Right? Your gut instinct of this is good and this is bad. You do have to apply reason to that, but if you don't have a way to judge what is good and bad, then your rationality is not going to do you any good. And for a humanist, we think a lot of that comes from our emotions. All right. But anyways, he says the choice to be a humanist is an emotional one, not based on any rational conclusion or logical deduction. And I would say that's actually kind of wrong. Yes, a lot of what makes us want to be a good, ethical, compassionate, responsible, and ethical person is emotional, right? We want to feel good. We want to feel happy. That's an emotion. On the other hand, when we are an ethical, compassionate, rational, responsible person, we feel good. So from experience, we know that certain behaviors are going to lead to better outcomes, and not behaving in a good way is going to lead to bad outcomes. And that's something that's less emotional and more deductive, right? Not completely objective, obviously, but deductive. We're learning from our experiences. The other thing is that we can see in society when people behave more ethically, responsibly, and compassionately, they live by the golden rule, that society generally does better than if everybody's lying, cheating, stealing, and killing everybody else. And again, you know, it's our emotions saying that this is good, but we can look at it rationally and look at the outcomes of behaviors and say, yes, that does indeed work. All right. When it comes to being a humanist, yes, it's a choice. It's a objective choice that we make. No one is really born a humanist. It's something you decide for yourself. This is the sort of person I want to be. I want to be an ethical, rational, compassionate person because it benefits me here and now. It makes me feel better about myself, and it helps me navigate through life more effectively. It's a choice you make, but it's not entirely an emotional choice devoid of logic and reason. People come to humanism through reason and logic, coupled with their emotions. So I would say for a humanist, we're not strictly rational, right? We understand we have this emotional life. Our goal is to integrate our emotions into our rational life and do our best as free thinkers to not allow our biases to override reality, right? So if we find out logically that something we thought was true is not true, we use that new knowledge to change our decision about what is good and what is bad in any particular situation. And I'm sorry, my cat is mewing and I'll show them here for you. This is my putty cat. So yeah, you know, I mean, the problem with making good decisions is you do have to balance your reason and your compassion and your emotional life together. And I think if you're just doing logic devoid of emotion, then your solutions aren't going to be very compassionate, because compassion is an emotion. All right? And if you're just being compassionate without applying logic to it, your solutions aren't going to be any good because you didn't include logic. You need both logic and compassion, both the logic and the emotion, to make good decisions. And of course, the problem is always balancing the two. What weight do you put on one or the other as you're making your decisions? And that's the hard part. That's why humanists spend so much time working on free thought and trying to overcome our biases. That's why we spend so much time working on our logic and our reason and dedicating ourselves to a scientific mindset. We don't want to delude ourselves. We don't want to allow our emotions to delude ourselves. At the same time, you know, we recognize that they're important. All right, so the two have to work together. Your reason and your logic have to work together with your emotions to create a good outcome. If you're just doing one or the other, from the humanist perspective, you're not really using all the capacities you have as a human being, and your outcomes aren't going to be very satisfying. All right, because how you define what is good and bad matters greatly. If you define good as being rich, you're going to be willing to walk all over other people and hurt other people in the pursuit of profits. If you don't have this emotional component of compassion for other people and yourself, then you have no motivation to be good to yourself or be good to other people. So for humanists, this compassionate component for ourselves and other people is absolutely critical. But it's not the only thing we do. It blends with our logic and reason, and that's, I think, what makes humanism such a unique approach, is because it's not just compassionate, it's not just logical, it's not just about us, it's about everyone, it's about trying to make the world a better place as well, and it's this combination of things that make humanism such a powerful thing. All right, I want to thank everybody for coming and listening in, I'll be here next month as soon as I figure out a date. And feel free to email me any questions. My email is jen@jen-hancock.com, or go to my website, jen-hancock.com, and use the contact form there. I have a book called The Humanist Approach to Happiness, Practical Wisdom. And if you want to learn, and that's about practical life skills, like how to make better decisions, how to integrate your compassion and your decision making, and all of that. And then I have another book if you just want to learn about what humanism is. I have Jen Hancock's Hand to Humanism Handbook. It's a short little ebook. I give it away free for people who sign up for my mailing list. And if you want to learn more about humanism, go ahead and do that. If you turn out you don't like my mailing list, go ahead and unsubscribe. Won't hurt my feelings. Just go get the book. It's also available for 99 cents on the ebook stores. And if you want a paperback, you can get that as well. I just feel bad because it's available for free. Anyways, there you go. Humanist Approach to Happiness, Practical Wisdom. It's about how to make better decisions in your life by looking at dating, relationships, and drinking and driving, and the impact your decisions have on everyday life. And then the Handy Humanism Handbook to learn more about humanism. I'm on the web at www.jen-hancock.com, and I'll see you next month. Bye-bye.